Okay, imagine this scenario. You're at work, right?
Mhm.
And you need to learn something new. Maybe it's a software thing or some compliance update.
Mm-hmm.
You open the training and it's just huge, a massive document, maybe a 2-hour video.
Oh, yeah. The classic wall of text or endless video.
Exactly. And meanwhile, your email's exploding, chat's flashing, your brain's juggling like 10 different things.
Yeah.
Does that sound familiar? That feeling of trying to cram in learning when everything's yelling for your attention?
That's pretty much the standard workplace experience these days, isn't it? It's this constant fight with information overload, digital pings everywhere.
Totally.
Trying to focus on traditional long-form training can feel like trying to hold on to water, as you said.
Right. It really feels like our attention spans have, well, maybe not shrunk, but they've definitely adapted, conditioned by all the quick hit stuff online.
For sure.
But what if the training itself changed to match that? What if the answer wasn't just more training, but maybe less, delivered differently?
Now you're getting to the core idea behind microlearning. It's this approach that's really gaining traction, kind of reshaping how companies think about skill development in this fast-paced world.
And that's exactly what we're going to dive into today. We've looked through a whole stack of sources, articles, studies, notes, all focused on microlearning in the corporate space. Our mission here is to really unpack it all, pull out the key stuff, what it actually is, why it seems to be such a good fit right now, the real benefits companies are seeing, and importantly, how they're making it work on the ground.
Yeah, we'll dig into the definition, explore why it thrives in this attention economy people talk about. Look at the result it's getting, so are pretty impressive, and then touch on the practical ways to implement it well. It's a really interesting mix of learning science and just practical workplace needs.
Okay, let's start right at the basics then. When these sources talk about microlearning, what are we actually talking about? What's the fundamental idea?
Well, at its heart, it's defined by being short and focused. Think learning modules that are really specific and brief.
How brief are we talking?
The sources generally put it somewhere between, say, just a few seconds, up to maybe 15 minutes maximum.
15 minutes max. Okay, that's immediately different from, the half-day workshops or those long e-learning courses lots of us have probably sat through.
Oh, absolutely. It's a totally different approach. The idea is to deliberately break down bigger topics or skills into these bite-sized pieces.
Right.
Each little module usually focuses on just one single learning objective. That keeps it super targeted, and as the materials really emphasize, makes it easy to digest and actually fit into a packed workday.
So instead of one giant meal, it's like a series of focused snacks throughout the day.
That's a good way to put it, yeah. Tiny, targeted explorations.
And that structure, that brevity, it seems like it's tailor-made for the challenges you mentioned earlier. These materials mention the attention economy quite a bit.
They do, and understanding that concept is, I think, pretty key to grasping why microlearning is taking off. The attention economy, basically, is this idea that human attention itself is the really valuable, scarce thing now.
Because we're just bombarded constantly.
Exactly. Information everywhere, notifications, digital distractions, all competing for that limited focus.
It feels like we're living in a state of constant partial attention sometimes.
That's a good way to describe it.
Yeah.
And it leads to what the sources call a digitally distracted workforce. Our attention spans for long, drawn-out content just aren't what they maybe once were.
Yeah.
So trying to shoehorn old-style, lengthy training into that environment, often it just fails to engage effectively. People tune out or they get interrupted.
Okay, that resonates. I mean, my own experience definitely backs that up. So how does microlearning specifically push back against that distraction?
Well, primarily by delivering that bite-sized content, instead of asking for an hour of your undivided attention, which is a huge ask these days.
Almost impossible sometimes.
Right. It just asks for a few minutes. That low commitment makes it much easier to engage, maybe during a coffee break or between tasks. It directly fights that distraction problem. And it helps avoid what psychologists call cognitive overload.
Ah, right. That feeling where you just get swamped with too much info at once and none of it sticks.
Precisely. You can't process it, can't remember it. Microlearning avoids that by keeping the dose small and focused. You get just the bit you need, hopefully when you need it.
Instead of having to dig through a massive manual to find that one specific thing.
Exactly. And there's another angle too. This whole approach, it really syncs up with how we tend to consume information outside of work now.
You mean like scrolling social media or watching short videos?
Yeah, exactly that. We've kind of become accustomed to getting information in these quick, easily digestible bursts. So microlearning, especially if it's delivered through, say, mobile-first platforms. It just aligns seamlessly with these modern learning behaviors.
It meets people where they are mentally and technologically. And the sources even say you can boost it further with things like interactive elements or gamification, maybe even AI recommendations, kind of borrowing tricks from those platforms we already use.
Absolutely. Technology isn't just about delivery here. It can actually make the learning itself more dynamic, more engaging, more relevant. Not just short, but also smart.
Okay, so the logic makes sense. Short content fits busy, distracted people better, but, logic is one thing, results are another. Do these sources actually show that this works? Are there tangible benefits companies are seeing?
Yeah, the evidence laid out in these materials is actually pretty strong. One of the headline findings is around knowledge retention.
How much people actually remember?
Right. Some research cited suggests microlearning can, quote, improve retention rates by 25% to 60% compared to more traditional methods.
Whoa, hang on. 25 to 60% better retention. That's a massive difference. Why such a big jump?
The thinking points back to that structure we talked about. Because it's concise, focused on one thing, it seems to optimize information absorption and recall. Your brain isn't overwhelmed.
Okay.
It can actually process and store that smaller piece of information more effectively, so it sticks better long term. It's less like cramming for a test and more like spaced repetition or manageable practice.
Less info in, but more stays in. Okay. What about just getting people to do the training? Compliance training, mandatory stuff. Completion rates can be notoriously low sometimes.
That's another area where the numbers look really good. The materials mention an average completion rate of around 82% for microlearning modules.
82%? Wow. That definitely feels higher than what you often hear for longer mandatory courses.
It really is. And it strongly suggests that microlearning is better at sustaining learner interest. It lowers the barrier, right?
Yeah, easier to start something short.
Exactly. Employees are just more likely to complete these short, focused modules because they can slot them into their day without major disruption. And naturally, higher completion means improved skill acquisition.
Right, makes sense. You can't learn the skill if you don't finish the lesson. So, better retention, higher completion, more skills learned. How does that translate to the business side of things, like productivity, performance?
There's definitely a connection drawn in the sources. They point to a finding that companies that really foster a strong learning culture and accessible microlearning often helps build that culture. Those companies saw something like a 37% boost in employee productivity.
37%. Okay, that's a number that'll get management's attention.
You'd think so. And a big part of that seems to be the personalization aspect we touched on.
Making it relevant to the specific person.
Yes. When the content is tailored to specific job roles and skill levels, people get the most relevant information. They're learning stuff they can actually use to do their job better, sometimes immediately. And that directly leads to improved job performance.
So it's not just learning abstract concepts, it's targeted learning that directly impacts their work, like right now.
Precisely. And when you put it all together, improved productivity, better skills, less time spent in training compared to older methods, the overall picture points towards a higher return on investment, or ROI, for these training programs.
Okay.
The sources suggest it works by reducing training costs and time investment, while also boosting performance and allowing for on-demand learning when people actually need it.
So potentially faster, cheaper, more effective learning that impacts the bottom line. That's a compelling case. But how do companies actually do this well? It can't just be about chopping up an old 2-hour video into 5-minute segments, surely.
No, definitely not. It's much more strategic than that. The materials highlight several key best practices. First, and we keep coming back to this, is personalization.
Customizing it, making it feel like it's for me.
Exactly. Tailoring that content to specific job roles and skill levels is really critical. If that little module isn't relevant to your work, you're probably not going to engage, no matter how short it is. That relevance is what truly enhances its effectiveness.
Yeah, makes total sense. Learning about a feature in software I never touch, not helpful.
Right. The second big recommendation is using a blended learning approach.
So it's not about completely ditching traditional training then?
No, not at all. The consensus seems to be that microlearning often works best when it's integrated with traditional training models.
How does that look in practice?
Well, a good blended strategy might combine online microlearning for the quick facts, the refreshers, the specific skills with traditional methods, like maybe a workshop for deeper discussion, coaching for practice, or hands-on application sessions.
Okay.
This kind of mix addresses diverse learning styles because not everyone learns best from short videos, and it also helps ensure employees can apply what they learned in micromodules in real-world scenarios.
So the micro boosts give you the what, and maybe the traditional parts help with the how and the why, or give you space to practice and ask questions. They work together.
Exactly. They complement each other.
Yeah.
And underpinning all of this, naturally, is technology. The sources really stress how crucial the right tech is for seamless implementation.
You need the tools to actually deliver this stuff effectively.
You really do. Examples mentioned include those AI-driven learning platforms that can automatically suggest relevant modules, and definitely mobile-first microlearning solutions, so people can learn anywhere, anytime on their commute, waiting for a meeting.
Right, fix the on-the-go nature.
Yeah. There was even a specific example laying a work using social media-inspired bite-sized courses, so using formats people are already familiar and comfortable with.
Interesting.
And integrating these microlearning tools with a company's existing learning management system, or LMS.
They're the main training hub.
Right. That integration further enhances scalability and efficiency, keeps everything organized and trackable.
So the right tech makes it easy to create, manage, personalize, and push out this bite-sized content right when and where people need it.
It's basically the plumbing that makes the whole strategy flow smoothly, especially at scale.
And, okay, when you put all that together, the relevant content, easy access, engaging formats, fitting it into the day, it does more than just improve training, doesn't it? The sources talk about contributing to a wider culture of continuous learning.
It absolutely does. By making learning so accessible and, frankly, less intimidating with these bite-sized modules, it encourages people to engage with learning much more regularly. It stops being this big, disruptive event.
Yeah.
It becomes more like an integrated part of the workday. And that flexibility and accessibility really empowers employees to continuously upskill, to adapt, to stay current, which is so vital today.
It shifts learning from being a chore you have to do occasionally to maybe more of an ongoing habit that's just part of how you work.
Exactly. It helps build that proactive, nimble learning environment that organizations really need to thrive now.
Okay, so we've really unpacked these sources on microlearning and corporate training. We see it's fundamentally about short, sharp, focused content built for our, let's face it, attention-challenged world. The evidence we looked at points to some pretty significant upsides. Much better retention, way higher completion rates, boosts in productivity, better ROI.
Yeah, the benefits seem quite clear.
And the key to making it work seems to be personalization, blending it smartly with other methods, and definitely leveraging the right tech, all feeding into that bigger goal of a continuous learning culture.
This deep dive into the materials really paints a picture of microlearning as something with the potential to not just tweak training, but maybe fundamentally change how learning happens inside organizations.
It really does feel that way. And it leaves me thinking, and maybe you listening too, with this kind of final thought. If breaking down complex stuff into these bite-sized, easy-to-grab pieces is so effective for corporate training, what does that suggest about how we might approach learning and staying informed in, well, any part of our lives, especially given the sheer volume of information we face every single day? Could these micro-learning principles be a key, not just for better job training, but maybe for better personal knowledge management and just lifelong learning in general?